All right, welcome back, guys. This is part two. We're still talking about exercise for weight loss. Let's pick up where we left off. And so we were talking about which one's better. HIIT training, Fat Max training, they both are effective and they serve a different purpose. Fat Max training is really good at training your body to burn fats for fuel, and we want to do that. HIIT training is really good at working the muscular system a little bit more and increasing EPOC. And so we do both of them. By the time we're done today, I'll show you how we can incorporate them in. And that's why there's a spot for both of them. But now let's move into the next part of your training, and that is resistance exercise. Is resistance exercise needed? I always needed. I've already brought this up. Yeah, it's a must. But let's look at resistance exercise and what it does to energy expenditure. What they did in this study is they compared the difference between doing a single set of resistance training, meaning maybe you go into the gym and there's 10 exercises that you do. They compared either doing all of those 10 exercises one time, or they compared doing all 10 of those exercises 3 times. And what they wanted to see is which one was better increasing energy expenditure. Now I show this study. I don't care right now about talking about 1 set or 3 sets. It has nothing to do with the reason I'm showing this study. I like this study though, because then they measured energy expenditure for 72 hours. So for 3 days. And so that's why I'm showing this. And so again, don't worry about differences between 1 and 3 sets. And actually there wasn't any difference. And this kind of stinks. They're measuring this in kilojoules. Okay. So it doesn't translate really nicely to calories, but we get the point. So here's where the 2 groups were before they did an exercise. Then they did exercise, and you see energy expenditure went up, and it was elevated 24 hours after exercise, 48 hours, and it still was elevated 72 hours after exercise. So I did the math of what we call the area under the curve. And so that's all this stuff here. How many calories is that? Well, it's about 240 calories. So I always go back to, is that significant? I think so. Hopefully your resistance training is part of your daily activities. This is bonus calories. This is extra calories above and beyond what you're doing in the resistance training session anyways. And so one reason resistance training is good is it does provoke an EPOC. And so that's a benefit. What are the other reasons that you should resistance train? As I've been saying over and over and over, when you lose weight, not all of that weight is going to be fat. You're going to lose some muscle, which sucks. Depending upon who you are, it might be 35%. Some people might be 20%. Most of the literature shows that endurance training by itself isn't enough of a stimulus to keep that muscle. Now, HIIT training, by the way, is at least for the leg muscles, and that's why another reason HIIT training is good. But normal endurance training isn't. So we need to do some resistance training because we want to maintain muscle mass. If muscle mass goes down, metabolism goes down. And metabolism goes down, I'm not losing weight. In addition, you don't want to look flabby and not muscular. So a couple studies on this. So one, what they did in this study is they said, okay, we're going to take a group of individuals and we're going to put them all on a hypocaloric diet, meaning they had them eat, they reduced their the amount of calories that they should eat by 600 calories every day. Okay, so they were trying to have them lose weight. Then they had different groups. They had a group that was a control group where all they did is reduce their calories by 600 calories a day. Then they had a group where they reduced the calories, but they increased protein content. So their protein was higher. Then they had a group. So that was the control group. This is the protein group. Then they had a group where they reduced the 600 calories, but then they exercised. Then they had a group that reduced the 600 calorie, and the exercise was resistance exercise. And then they exercised and increased the protein. Now look at the key here. We have body weight, fat mass, and fat-free mass. All of the groups lost fat mass, okay, and body weight because they were reducing calories. But what we're looking at is this fat-free mass or muscle mass. The only group that increased the muscle mass was the group that was doing resistance exercise and increased protein. We've said that you need to increase protein already, and they only increased the protein to 1.3 grams per kilogram. So it's not like they went crazy. But when you do that, this is everyone's goal. Oh, what's your goal? What do you want to do? I want to lose fat and increase muscle mass. Hard to do, but you can do it. That's what they did. To make my point, let me show you more extreme. In this study, they had subjects adhere to what's called a very low calorie diet. That's only 800 calories a day. Okay, so they were literally having them almost eat nothing. And then they had them either do circuit training, which is a style of resistance exercise that we'll get to, or they did endurance training. They did it 3 days per week. Okay. What did they find? So first, let's look at lean body mass. I want to know what happened to, that's muscle mass. Well, in the group that did the cardio, their muscle mass went down. They lost about 4 kilograms of muscle. That's almost 9 to 10 pounds of muscle. In the group that did the circuit training, which is resistance training, we didn't see that. Statistically, it didn't go down. Statistically, it did not go down. So even when, now it didn't go up, okay, because they were only eating 800 calories a day, but at least they preserved it. But the other thing that you need to note is, what about metabolism? Remember, when we start these extreme diets, metabolism goes down. And in the cardio group, it did. Their resting metabolism went from about 1,600 calories to about 1,300 calories a day. That's on an 800 calorie diet, 300 calorie difference is huge. If you look at the group that did the resistance training, it actually slightly went up. Okay, and so they maintained metabolism. And so you've got to do resistance training. Now, when we talk about resistance training, though, it's not all created equal. I need to bring up what type of resistance training and exercises you should do. The first thing that we have to address is this foolish notion of spot reduction. I always have people come up to me, Zach, I still have some fat in my lower belly or in my love handles. What exercises should I do? And what they're saying is, if I do a crunch a certain way, it'll zap the fat in that area. There's no data to support that. That's called spot reduction. Spot reduction is the idea that if I do exercise and work this muscle, the fat around that muscle will preferentially be lost. And there's no data that supports that. Let me give you an example. This was a study that was looking at sit-ups, and they did essentially a month-long sit-up program. And they had them, by the end of the month, they were doing a lot of sit-ups. And then they measured fat biopsies. So meaning they stuck a needle in their belly, in their butt, in their arm, and they measured the size of the fat cells. So what they wanted to see is before and after their sit-up program. If spot reduction was a thing, and they did all these sit-ups, then the fat in the fat cells of the stomach should have got a lot smaller than the fat in the cells in the rest of the body. That's the reason you do sit-ups, right? But that's not what they found. The results demonstrate that the conventional sit-up exercise does not preferentially reduce adipose cell size in the abdominal region to any greater extent than the rest of the body. One more study to make this point, because this study I'm showing you is extreme. I mean, this, if what they didn't work in spot reduction, it's not going to work. These authors said, okay, let's take this one step farther. They had subjects come in and they had them do a leg press on a machine with only one leg. And look at how much they did. They did 80 minutes of continuous pressing for a 12-week program. So meaning they came in 3 days a week, and they came in, they sat on that leg press, and only on their right leg, they did 80 minutes of leg press. It was about 1,200 reps. And then they went home. 2 days later, they came and did the same thing only on their right leg. So the other leg had nothing done. So if spot reduction was a thing, the leg that they trained, that fat should have gone away, or at least gotten a lot smaller, right? Versus the other leg. So then they did, fat biopsies throughout the body. And what did they find? Let's look at the trained leg. The trained leg lost 0.8 kilograms. That's the trained leg. The control leg lost 2.9 kilograms. The leg that didn't do anything lost more fat. The abdominal region lost even more, 7.2 kilograms, and they didn't do anything in the abdominal region. Look at the arms. The arms lost the most, 10.2 kilograms. And again, they didn't do anything. The arms didn't do anything. So spot reduction isn't a thing. Here's the results from the researchers. In accordance with previous findings, our results indicate that the localized muscle endurance resistance training program results in reduction in trunk and arm fat mass greater than the trained legs, meaning these results do not support a localized effect of resistance training. So I say this because you want to choose exercises that work across multiple joints. I see this so often. A female comes into the gym and she sits down in that little thigh squeezer machine and she does that forever thinking, yeah, I'm gonna tone my legs. She didn't burn any calories hardly, because I've never seen someone sweat in that machine. And we know spot reduction isn't a thing. So she just wasted 20 minutes on that dumb machine. Versus, and it's working one joint. She's just working across the hip joint, so it's not burning calories. What if that same lady would have spent that 20 minutes doing either HIIT training or squats, where you're working the ankle joint, the knee joint, the hip joint, right? All the core muscle to hold the weight up. You want to choose exercises that we call compound exercises. These are exercises that work more than one joint. Okay, those are the exercises that you want to choose. Now, in addition to that, how should the resistance training be done? Well, circuit training has been shown to be very effective at increasing energy expenditure to produce weight loss. What circuit training is just repeating exercises back to back to back without a break. That's what I recommend in this program. For example, I snipped this out of your book. So let's say you're new, meaning you're not exercising that much. Let's split your body up into two. You have a lower body day and an upper body day. So on the lower body resistance exercise day, you see there's 10 exercises here. What you would do is you would come in and you would start with squats, and you would do 10 to 12 repetitions of squats. Then you immediately go into jumping jacks. And then you'll do maybe 30 to 50 jumping jacks. And I have this written for you in the book, by the way. And then you'll go in and you'll do a leg extension. And you'll do 10 reps of leg extension. Then you go to scissor jumps, and then you go and you do this. And by the time you get through 10, that's one full rotation. Eventually, you want to work up to where you could do 3 rotations. Now, in the very beginning, you just do 1, but eventually you want to work up to do 3. Couple notes on this. In your book, I've noted that some people exercise in a gym, some people exercise at home. If you notice a lot of the exercises I've listed here, you would need a gym, like for leg extensions and leg curls. I also highlighted exercises in the book that you can just do at home if you just want to exercise at home. And so you can look at that and switch those exercises out. Another thing to note is I kind of piggyback exercises that are more traditional resistance training with exercises that are more plyometric style. For example, we have chest press, right? So you're doing your chest press, that's the resistance training. And then you're going to do jumping jacks. The jumping jacks is really meant to keep your heart rate up. And then you go to military press, which is just pressing over your head. And then mountain climbers to get the heart rate up. And so I stagger back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, okay? In addition, in your book, I have a description of all these. Some people are very familiar with exercises, some are not. Like if you're saying, well, what the heck is a mountain climber? In your book, I have a short description of what a mountain climber is so that you'll know what to do. If that's not good enough, you can Google any of these and you can find images of what these exercises look like. And so again, I go back to logging your exercise. So now you'll see here, we have a spot for our resistance training. So muscles work, maybe you're going to do upper body that day. You can list your exercise, how much weight you did, and how much reps. In your book, I give you a recommendation rep range as well, okay? And so it's all in there for you. And so now we've kind of encompassed this, okay, now I've got my cardio and I've got my resistance training. Let's bring it together real quick. Take home message, 6 days a week, 60 minutes a day. That's really what you need to shoot for. You got to schedule time for it. Exercise goals should include choosing an exercise program that burns fat instead of carbs, increase 24-hour energy expenditure, and preserves or increases lean muscle mass. When we talk about aerobic exercise, we can break it down into 2 camps. We have our fat max training and our HIIT training, and both are important. When we look at resistance training, you must include resistance training program. Circuit training is ideal for weight loss because it keeps your heart rate very high, so energy expenditure is high. And so a model could be, you guys can change this. This is what I've recommended, okay? So how would you incorporate these? So here's our table, and I have empty tables for you in your book for cardio and weights. So HIIT training should be your bread and butter. Meaning, if you notice, we have Fat Max training 2 times a week. Those are 60-minute, really long sessions. And if you notice, the days that we do Fat Max training are the days that we're not doing circuit training, because the Fat Max training needs to be for 60 minutes. The days that we're doing circuit training, remember the circuits only take about 20 minutes. Sorry, let me back up. The days that we're doing HIIT training, because the HIIT training session only takes about 20 minutes. Those are the days that you're doing the circuit training. The circuit training takes about 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. And so together you get your 60 minutes. And then Sunday, the Lord's Day, go ahead and take that off. If you want to take a different day off, that's fine. I always just take Sundays off. And so this is ideally how you would put together your exercise program. Now, a word of caution, understand, if you're not doing anything right now, you will not be able, nor should you attempt to do all of this at first. If you're not doing anything, start by doing one of everything. Meaning, for your HIIT training, just do 5 all-out sprints instead of 10. For your circuit training, just do 1. For your Fat Max training, cut it in half, do 20 to 30 minutes. You have to build up. And with your weights, start light. But this is why you record. You record what you did and you build up. Stick with it. In the beginning, you're like, oh my goodness, it's so hard. I don't feel good. Stick with it. You're going to get in better shape. As you get in better shape, you'll be able to work harder. You will burn more calories. And so don't quit. Okay, that's it for this. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. And good luck as you guys start your exercise.